Welcome to episode 20 of the Popanimecomics Lounge. My guest today is Craig Anderson, a British referee. But before we get into the interview, I'd like to remind everybody to follow us on Twitter at PopAnimeComics and to check out the website popanimecomics.com, which writes about anime, comics, and pop culture. So without further ado, let's dive right into this interview. So when were you first introduced to wrestling?
I think probably when I was like 8 or 9, maybe a bit younger. My mum didn't like us watching wrestling at that age, shockingly. Me and my brother. And so occasionally when we went around to one of my friend's house, we used to like try and stay there as late as possible to watch Raw. And we only knew Austin and Rock. That was the only two people we knew. But yeah, about 8 or 9 years old, I'd say.
And you said you were watching Raw. Did you watch anything else besides Monday Night Raw?
At that age, no. Growing up, though, I really got into like the WWF at the time, sort of around early, 2000, maybe like late 99. I kind of remember Kurt Angle winning the title. First thing I really remember, but I remember bits. I've watched stuff from everywhere, WCW, ECW, and WWF and WWE, if you like, from years and years and years. But yeah, that was probably the first point that I started watching it.
So was there any wrestler who really inspired you to get into this industry?
Wrestler-wise, I've always heard like 3 or 4 favourites over the years. Shawn Michaels, Edge and Kurt Angle were 3 guys that I was like, they are kind of inspirations to a lot of people. But referee-wise, I suppose, I look at refs like Charles Robinson, Chad Patton in WWE. They've done very well. And obviously Chris Sharp lately, he's been a tremendous help to me in regards to advice and, being able to almost mentor me. All them sort of people have been sort of inspirations in the role models.
So before you came into the wrestling industry, what were you doing?
I finished my degree. I did a media degree here in the UK in Leeds. Just thought I was going to get a job afterwards. I wanted to do like radio. I did a lot of radio broadcasting work. So I would have really been happy with like a job in radio or that kind of thing. I used to do a wrestling podcast myself for like a few projects. I know like the whole being interviewed as opposed to interviewing is a weird dynamic. But I just thought I was going to get a job. And then I sort of, in the beginning of my 3rd year of uni, I got into wrestling.
How did you get involved with your first promotion in wrestling? And what was your job in that promotion?
My first job, because I got in touch with a school in Leeds called Grapple, and I said, I'm a media student, I'd love to get some more experience, maybe ring announcing, or if you need a commentator, I'd love to, I don't know how big your company is, or, I'd love to do that. And they said, yeah, we've got a show in like 4 weeks that's being filmed. We're a school, so we're all up for giving opportunity. Why not? We'll give you a chance. I've watched it back. It's dreadful. I was not good. But I suppose I was probably quite out of my depth for like my first ever show. But I can look back on it and laugh. But yeah, I did that, and then I kind of progressed. The boss of the academy sort of went, because I expressed an interest in like learning how to ref and doing it properly and getting the proper gear and things. And he said, well, do you fancy reffing on a few shows? I said, yeah, of course, that'd be fantastic. It just snowballed from there. It just took off in its own life.
So why refereeing? What is intriguing about becoming a referee?
I think for the most part, it's being able to be in the ring with some excellent talent for a start, being able to appreciate wrestling from a different sort of standpoint. I think another thing as well, I'd seen, while I trained as well, like I go to, not as much now, but I used to like go training a fair bit. I go to shows, and some shows I'd see refereeing done from what I perceived to be done badly. And I was just like, I could do better than that. So instead of just saying I think I can do better than that, why don't I try and do better than that? It was like a case of, I just think there wasn't very many. There are some very good refs in this country, but there are also some very bad ones. And I personally just thought I could bring that standard up and hopefully contribute to a show.
So you said you trained as a referee. How did you train?
I just did the same drills as the wrestlers did at training. So the same bumps, the same sort of tech stuff. Not so much into the high flying, but like I do the same. I mean, it's great for fitness as well, and it helps. It helps tremendously with positioning. When someone's hooking up for a move, you kind of know, okay, they're going to go this way, I need to be over there. So you can sort of try and think at least 1 move ahead, or if not 2 moves ahead to where they're going to go next. I also think it kind of helps with the respect standpoint. When wrestlers know that you've also put the effort in to train, generally found that I get a little bit more respect from the boys and the girls because I've trained as opposed to just, I'll ref, and there's definitely an aspect of, okay, he's been bothered to do that. That's cool. That's a good thing.
And now referees take bumps, but it can't be a wrestling bump. How do you go about taking a referee bump and selling it to the crowd?
Yeah, it's weird. No one teaches you how to ref bump, if that's even a well. Yeah, no one teaches you that. I mean, I remember my first proper ref bump, and it was just get hit and just effectively just fall over. Like you really just get hit, and with the part of your body that's been hit the hardest, take that and almost go like top heavy. So if I'm taking like a super kick, I just kind of almost go down like my legs being swept under from underneath me, and just fling your legs up in the air and throw your face down. Really, but yeah, it's very peculiar. It's something like you can practice, but it's almost instinct is almost better because if you practice how to ref bump a lot, then it looks almost like it's something that should happen correctly, as opposed to just falling naturally down to however you get hit. But yeah, it's very weird, and there is no criteria to be taught how to ref bump correctly or not correctly. So yeah, it's a bit peculiar.
And then how often do you train as a referee with, the wrestlers as well as on your own?
In regards to like seminars and things and sessions, I used to train like once a week when I first started because I really I wanted to learn a lot, and I found the more I worked on shows, the more I progressed, the more I learned. But I'd say now I probably maybe once a month, if not twice a month now, just to sort of keep my I don't know fitness up, to keep as well as the gym, but just to keep going. But I used to train like once a week. I tend to and if there's an opportunity, like a special seminar, for example, we had Dave Taylor come over back to the UK, former WCW and WWE guy. He came back over, and we have a trainer called Marty Jones, they go way back to the kind of World of Sport era days here in the UK. Plus El Ligero, who's one of the top guys in this country, as well as Paul Parizio and JC Thunder. So we've got like 4 solid key trainers. Plus we're very lucky, and we get like we have good contacts, and we get good people that come into grapple to teach us.
And as a referee, when do you get involved in the match planning and making and knowing what exactly is happening when and where? When do you come into involvement in that?
It kind of varies, I suppose, match to match. Sometimes go over to the people in the match and be like, what's the finish? Or do you need me for anything? They tell me what's going on. And yeah, so, or they might come over to me and be like, Craig, are you okay doing this? So it does vary, but if I just happen to see them and I've seen they've been talking to each other, because there's no real point in going over to talk to one person when they clearly haven't spoke to each other yet. So there's no really point in sort of in worrying them about and troubling them for an answer or help. But yeah, I tend to try and leave it a while, so then I don't have to sort of, again, it doesn't want to feel like you're having to hassle them for like a constant answer. But I find with a lot of people, they kind of just tend to come up to me and be like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So yeah, it really varies.
And I think it's also safe to say that a good referee understands that they're not the main draw for the match. And so do you feel that not being noticed is one of the key elements of your job as a referee?
Absolutely. Being 5'6" has always got me grief, but being 5'6" in wrestling is brilliant because I'm a small ref that can keep out of the way. I'd rather a wrestler that I've only worked with like once or twice. If he or she can't remember my name, then that's great because I've clearly not got in the way or done something to appease them. If you sort of know what I mean. It's like if you do something that someone annoys you, it's like, oh, you never forget that person's name. But yeah, being invisible is key. Being as neutral as possible. Just like a prime example, I will happily like grow a beard out or like have facial hair, but then the day before or the morning before a show, all comes off, nice clean cut hair, nothing too wild with the other hair department. You know what I mean? Just being as professional as possible, because effectively, whatever company you're working for, you're representing their product. And if I've got silly hair or too outrageous style, then that could take away from the guys in the ring, and they're the one taking the bumps. They're the one that's they're there and entertaining. Of course, I'm a part of that. You can't have a match without a ref. But I'm not, like you just said, I'm not the person that they've paid money to come and see. They come and pay their money to watch the guys in the ring, not me.
And as a referee, you have a variety of tools to control a match, including a count out, rope breaks, breaking holds. How do you utilize the tools to control the pacing of the match?
So if, for example, I know there might be a little bit of a brawl on the outside, or I know they're going to go wandering a bit, sometimes I'll kind of like almost remonstrate with them for like a bit longer, which gives them easily another 10 to 15 seconds on the outside. If, for example, someone's on the outside down and someone's in the ring, I might get up to like 3 or 4 and then sort of turn around and tell the other person to back up or something, just so you can control the count by also giving guys in the ring sort of more time, move around to take their time. Because if I do counts too quickly, or if I do counts too slowly, pace of the match can either be too quick, so that the match either doesn't like pace well and it looks rushed when it clearly isn't, because my counts are too quick, or if they're too slow, things might be drawn out way too long than it should really be. It's important to know, if you can, bits and bobs what they're planning. You got to pace yourself. There's no point speeding ahead too fast.
So how much effort are you putting when you ref, and how much focus do you have on the match that you're refereeing?
Oh, everything. You've got to be completely concentrating on what's in front of you. Because at the end of the day, if there's someone that's never been to a wrestling show before, or a child or a family that have only seen, the WWE or maybe TNA on telly, they're coming and they've watched those refs on the telly do a certain thing. So if they see a ref in the ring that doesn't do those same sort of things, they'll be like, it'll be obvious to them, because they've just realised and watched, WWE. So of course, concentration has to be 100%. You have to give it everything. The guys in the ring are. So the ref, as like I said myself, I would expect of myself, if I was in the crowd watching me, I'd be like, why isn't he gone all the way down for that pin? Why is he sort of just like gone down to like one knee? Why isn't he doing that count very loudly? You have to be very vocal as a ref to assert your authority in a match. If you're quiet, then the wrestlers won't take you seriously and the crowd won't take you seriously. You need to be focused and you need to be loud.
And is there a difference between British referees and American style in refereeing?
Not for the most part. I'd say it's quite similar. Of course, there's like British style matches, which are like first to 2 falls, which is a British style match when you do rounds as well, like 5-minute rounds up to 6 rounds. But in regards to like the officiating, maybe there is a difference, but I've not seen any sort of major differences, no.
And as a referee, have you ever had to modify a match because a wrestler got hurt?
Yeah, there was a show not so long ago where someone got injured to the point where he literally could just about roll, but he couldn't do anything. So the finish was supposed to be a pinfall, but we ended up sort of ad-libbing and doing a count out because he was very injured. I find it quite peculiar. Like, for example, in I suppose in soccer or in rugby or any contact physical sport, you'd stop wrestling most of the time. You keep going till you finish, which is crazy when you think about it. It was a bad injury. He ended up having to go to hospital, and the rest of the show actually got cancelled. It was a bit scary, but like, best thing I can do in that situation is remain calm, keep talking to him. The help was great, so there was no problems. He's fine now, he's completely fine. But obviously at the time it was just obviously a little bit scary for him to be in that much pain.
And now as a referee, the crowd has given you some shit. Why
Absolutely.
is that, or why do you think that is?
There's a lot of contributing factors to that. Sometimes, like, I think they watch football. A lot of wrestling fans are football fans. They give the ref crap in football, or soccer, as you guys would like. Unbelievable amount of rubbish. So it's the same like position. We're both refs. Oh, we're going to give the ref some shit for making a bad decision or a good, whatever. As long as I don't make I suppose I feel like a proper mistake, then getting the abuse is kind of just part and parcel of. But it doesn't bother me. It's quite funny sometimes when I'm getting held abuse by the fans. But yeah, I've got thick skin. Doesn't bother me at all.
You've also been attacked by a few wrestlers, Violet and Nixon. How did that come about?
Basically, there was a match. It was them two versus Lana Austin and Ruby Summers in a tornado tag Falls Count Anywhere women's match for title in Leeds, title wrestling. So our regular referee, Dan Eagles, who refs for them, I do commentary for title. We were sort of talking, we were like, well, it'd be kind of, if 2 girls go one way and 2 girls go the other way in a Falls Count Anywhere match, how can you be in 2 places? So it was obviously, we decided it would best if we had 2 refs for that match. So being the heels, if you like, Nixon and Violet were going to lose. Originally the match was a draw and the match got restarted and then they lost. So then they took out their frustrations, as you can see from that video on YouTube, on myself, with a nice swift kick to the old ghoulies and then a nice shining wizard by Nixon.
Do you enjoy being part of scenarios like this where you're elevated higher as a ref?
I'm there to help the show in any way I can. If that involves me getting the crap kicked out of me, fine. That doesn't bother me. If it involves me doing something to someone else, fine. But I'm happy as an official and a commentator, whatever position I've been booked in by a company to represent their company and do what they want me to do.
Now, you have worked for a variety of companies, naming a few here: TGW, TCW, Grapple Wrestling, and recently Hope Wrestling. How do you get referee jobs in these promotions?
Well, Grapple is the academy, so they the first ones to sort of give me a chance, give me a shot. After that, compare wrestling to any sort of industry, really. You start at the bottom, and through hard work and showing you're reliable, showing you're worth something, you get built up and built up and built up. And then, you think, oh, he's good, well, we'll use him on my show. Oh, she's good, I'll use him on my show. Same for refs. I networked around a bunch of shows, like local shows I'd go and watch. My first outside booking from Grapple, I just happened to sit next to a promoter at a completely different show. It wasn't even his show. And he said, oh, you're a ref, Craig, aren't you? I said, yes, I am. Oh, well, I want to do this thing with it. So he booked me for his show, and then I kept working for Grapple, and then for TGW, that's True Grit Wrestling. The owners of the academy I train at decided to launch a pro company, if you like, called True Grit. They asked me to officiate one of their shows. So that means I got to work with, some really good top level guys. So then I can say, when a company goes, oh, Craig, we want to use you for our show, but who have you worked with? I can then say, I've worked with them. Oh, that's okay then. So he's not completely stupid. And for Hope was cool because the promoter Harvey Dale gave me an opportunity where we went for a big kind of meeting for it was almost like an NXT version of Hope. He wanted to do like a Hope Future kind of thing, and I obviously went to sort of talk to him about officiating for Hope Future. About 2 months later, I get a message on Facebook saying, we need a ref for Friday. Are you free? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. For his main show. And I went down and I did some matches for him on the show. And he asked me to come every show he had. It's about, it's luck, because that was a lot of luck. I was originally just doing the Hope Future shows. And then from there, you just end up, when someone asks, who have you worked with? Because that's kind of what it comes down to. When people go, oh, who have you worked for? That's the question you get asked all the time. Who have you worked for and who have you worked with? So I suppose, and I guess people ask that because, one, they can then check. It's like a reference in a job. When you're going for a new job, you can be like, okay, my reference is Mr. Blogs. Here's his number. Whereas with wrestling, it's like, who have you worked with? Because then they can just message them on Facebook and go, oh, if you worked with this person, because they said you worked with them, were they any good? And then, of course, they can either say, no, he was rotten, or he was all right. So that's up to them, obviously. But that's kind of how I ended up with them companies.
Would you say that networking is important in the wrestling industry?
Absolutely. If you're not necessarily booked on a show that weekend and you're able to get to a show, I'm not saying you have to go to shows, but if you're able to sort of get around and go to local shows, maybe some other trainees are going to a show to watch, and you can sort of jump in the car with them or get the train with them or the bus with them, then absolutely, because it's wrestling, so you're going to hopefully have fun and enjoy yourself anyway, because you get to watch wrestling and hopefully maybe even learn a few things. And two, yeah, absolutely. If you can and you do get the opportunity to talk to a promoter, if the opportunity does come around, just, say hello, be friendly, courteous, be respectful. You really don't know, and it's a key part.
Now, you've been refereeing for almost 19 months now. It seems a lot longer.
Yeah, it does.
How do you remember all the rules and the stipulations for matches, and what do you do if you forget a certain stipulation?
I'm trying to think of a situation where that may have happened. I don't actually think, touch wood, so far, I've forgotten a major rule. Occasionally I may have once or twice almost enforced a rule that wasn't necessary. Like in triple threat matches, no disqualification, no count out. So if there's choking on the ropes, there's nothing I can do. Really, I can't count, I can't do anything, can't do a thing. So sometimes in heat of the moments, sometimes you may start counting, or triple threat matches, like when big old 10 count, again, can't do anything because even though everyone's down, you can't count because there's 3 of them, there's not 2 of them. So maybe once or twice, but generally, at the end of the day, my job is to remember all that, So if I forget, then that's not great. I do remember one occasion that Harvey Dale, again at Hope, will always remind me of. There was a lot of shenanigans going on in a match between Jigsaw, who was over here, and El Ligero, who I mentioned earlier. There was a lot of shenanigans, and they were basically up to I think they were up to a 7 count. For whatever particular reason, I completely forgot the number 8 even existed. Went straight to 9. They got back in the ring in time I didn't even notice, didn't even realise. Dale very much made me aware that I had forgotten the number 8. And every time I do an 8 count or 10 count now, he always reminds me. That's the one occasion that kind of comes to mind, but I don't think there's been any other.
And as a referee, do you ever go back and watch the matches that you refereed to improve?
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying having a conversation with a friend of mine who's a wrestler over here very recently about self-evaluation. While it is, of course, super important to sort of ask your peers how you think that looked, or was that okay? Would you expect a ref to do that? I think a self-evaluation and watching something back is also super important, because then I can almost take a step back from the matches or the show I've done and be like, right, I'm going to sit here and watch this as like a fan, if you like. And I'm going to watch me as the ref. And would I expect the ref to do that? Would I expect the ref to do this? And then obviously think, well, I don't like where I'm standing here. Or even silly little things like I don't like how I'm standing there, or I don't like the position in there. I'll be like, right, I'm not going to do that again. Or at least try my best not to do that again. So yeah, I try and make a conscious effort to sort of watch stuff back when it becomes available to evaluate myself, yes.
And as an independent referee, can you describe what your weekly schedule looks like?
I have a full-time job, Monday to Friday, which obviously pays the bills and stuff. While I'd love wrestling to be the job that I can do full-time, not yet. That's not a viable option to be able to live. I suppose if you take like last week, for example, I had Hope Wrestling on the Friday, the 25th of September, and then I went to that was in Mansfield, and then I came home back to Leeds, and then went off to Sheffield the next day for EBW, Elite British Wrestling. And they had a day show, a matinee show, and then they had an evening show. So I was there all day for that. Came home, and then on the Sunday, the 27th, I had a show for Tidal in Leeds. It's a super busy weekend for myself.
And you've been very lucky in the wrestling business, and having jobs from being a ring announcer and commentator to getting into refereeing. What advice do you have for people who want to get into the wrestling business?
First things first, just find a school close to you and just shut up and listen. Really, but you go into wrestling thinking you know it all, but you don't. You really, really don't. Everyone in wrestling has an ego. Everything from ring announcers to refs to, of course, the wrestlers themselves. And it's all about checking that ego at the door and being humble, respectful, courteous, and listening. Really, first things first. Find a school with decent trainers and go from there. Really.
And then before we allow you to go back to your Pioneer, start a new one, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
I suppose upcoming stuff. I mean, yeah, of course, go and like the Facebook page, Craig Anderson Pro Wrestling Ref. Follow me on Twitter. It's @the_Mr. Anderson. Got a few shows I suppose I've got coming up. Of course, go and check out Hope Wrestling. Just recently been booked by Southside Wrestling, which is just going to be awesome. That's in October. So go check them out as well. There's a few other things coming up that I can't actually say right now, but again, please go check out the Facebook page and I'll be able to sort of announce them in due course. Go and check the Facebook page out. Craig Anderson Pro Wrestling Ref. That's the one.
Thank you for listening to this podcast, and remember to subscribe to this podcast so it finds you and you don't find it, and to like us on Twitter @PopAnimeComics and on our Facebook page Pop Anime Comics. Till next podcast, have a great week, everybody.